On the morning of the 19th of September 1931, Hitler's half-niece, Geli Raubal, was found dead in Adolf Hitler's Munich apartment, shot with his own pistol. Within hours, the authorities declared it was suicide. However, from the very beginning, there was no simple explanation, and the story was to keep changing. Now, the first thing it was suggested was this was a lamentable accident. According to Hitler's foreign press liaison, Ernst Heffenstengel, the first reaction in the apartment was panic. For a brief moment, Hitler's closest associates considered claiming that the shooting had been an accident, that Geli had been handling a loaded pistol and it had gone off. But this version was quickly abandoned. This was obviously implausible, and it raised immediate questions about who'd been present. The fact that even this explanation was discussed at all revealed something important. Hitler's inner circle didn't initially agree on what story to tell. The official explanation became suicide from stage fright. So this is what the public were told. Geli had taken her own life because she was nervous about an upcoming musical recital. Yet even Hitler himself didn't fully support this claim. In a written response, which was forced by press law, to an article written in the Münchner Post, Hitler stated that Geli had been worried about her singing, but he did not present this anxiety as a reason for suicide. In fact, his own statement undermined the theory. He insisted that Geli had been planning to travel to Vienna to improve her voice, preparing for the recital, not dreading it. So if she were making future plans, the question remains, why would she kill herself that night? It doesn't make any sense. Okay, what about number 3? Psychological pressure and sexual control. Now, this is a theory which is advanced by later historians and psychiatrists, and it focuses on Geli's life inside Hitler's household. She lived under intense supervision, cut off from friends, controlled in her movements, and subjected to relentless emotional pressure. Several researchers noted a disturbing pattern. Many women closely involved with Hitler later attempted suicide or died prematurely. If Geli did take her own life, this theory argues that she did so because she could no longer bear the psychological and sexual domination she endured. Okay, how about another one, a fourth one, a more sympathetic version for Hitler, and this would place the death of Geli on jealousy and Eva Braun. In this account, Geli was deeply attached to Hitler and became distraught when she discovered his involvement with another woman, Eva Braun. Now, Eva had sent a letter to Hitler thanking him for taking her out to the theatre, and Geli found the letter, she tore it up, and this led to her suicide. However, this explanation reduces a deeply troubling situation to a melodramatic love triangle and ignores the power imbalance between a 23-year-old woman and the man who controlled her entire life. Closely linked to this story is the theory that she was pregnant, and some could believe that their child was Hitler's. Now, others that it belonged to another man, possibly Jewish, obviously have to be Jewish, wouldn't he? Which would have been explosive given Hitler's ideology. And there's absolutely no proof for this whatsoever. Nothing. But at the time, these rumours fed speculation that Geli faced an unbearable personal and political crisis. How about the argument that she was suicided? A suicide in name only. According to this view, she was pressured, morally or psychologically, into killing herself. And who could have done that? Well, Himmler, maybe, as the enforcer. But maybe that's with hindsight, knowing what Himmler's character was like. That doesn't sound to me like the sort of thing he would do. Others could say, well, Hitler convinced her that suicide was the only honourable solution to her supposed betrayal. In such a scenario, the line between suicide and murder disappears. But once more, I think that this is based largely on hindsight, and we think of things that happened to Pauls at Stalingrad, for example, all those years later. There's also the possibility that Geli was killed on the orders of someone within the Nazi inner circle. This is what's called a theme murder. Now, the party had a history of dealing ruthlessly with people who became dangerous liabilities. Many were murdered. Indeed, the idea of theme murders goes back even to the early 1920s, if not to the Middle Ages. But as far as the Nazis were concerned, it's the early 1920s. Indeed, the nationalist right, Volkisch right, to the immediate period after the Versailles Treaty. If Geli was seen as unstable, indiscreet, or threatening Hitler's image at a crucial political moment, she may have been eliminated to protect the movement. But I really cannot believe, given the Führer principle, that somebody else would decide to murder Hitler's own niece. How about an accidental killing during a quarrel? One explanation would be something like this. There's a fierce argument, gun appears, possibly brandished in anger or desperation, and in all the chaos it goes off. This would explain early talk of an accident, the hurried cover-up, and the conflicting stories that followed. But there was no proper investigation to actually solve this possibility. Now, Hitler had been in the army, and maybe I'm now just basing this off my own experience, but there's one thing with gun safety that you're taught all the time and is hammered into you. Now, Hitler might have kept the weapon loaded for his own protection. There was plenty of people who didn't like him, but it had to be cocked, and the trigger, the safety catch had to come off, and it had to be fired. Now, there's three things there. I find this a bit hard to believe, but then again, you never know. It might actually have happened. How about Hitler killing her? And this is the most serious accusation. This is possibly the hardest to prove. Now, I would say this. He had a quarrel with her that day. There's no doubt. He had misleading public statements. He said various things that conflicted with each other. The body was removed very quickly, and a number of people were silenced or heavily rewarded, such as Gertner, who investigated the case. Hitler had an alibi, but it relied on the testimony of his own staff, and the exact time of death was never established. In the end, the official verdict was suicide, but it was a verdict reached without serious forensic investigation, based on testimony from men who had every reason to protect Adolf Hitler. As a result, the death of Geli Raubal remains unresolved. What can be said with certainty is this, that she died young. She was trapped in the orbit of a man already learning how to control truth, suppress evidence, and survive scandal. And that lesson, learned in 1931, would shape the history of Europe in the years to come. Now, I have more to add to this. This is an overview of some of the theories, and in future videos I'm going to go into more detail on some of them to see if we can come up with a solution. Thanks very much for listening. I upload every day at 2000 hours Central European time. That's my time. I do longer videos on a Tuesday and on a Friday, and I also offer channel membership, which costs £5, $6 or €6, and that'll give you access to more than 800 videos which are for members only. For the moment, from me, thanks for listening. Bye for now.